everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've gone all mixed media with Stampin' Up supplies today. Stay with me and I'll show you what I did. So here's my background card. It's a piece of very vanilla, which is about 4 inches by 5 3/4. And I'm putting some crushed curry ink onto my craft mat. And that's a little bit of glycerine going on there. And as you can see, I've die cut out the dragonfly. And I'm just sponging that crushed curry ink all around the edges of my card piece. I'm wearing gloves, not because there's anything in there that's going to damage my hands. It's just to keep my fingers from getting dirty, quite honestly. So this is a Mango Melody that's going on next. And again, I'm picking it up on the sponge. This is just a little bit of kitchen sponge. Okay, the kind you use for scrubbing the dishes with. And again, I'm colouring in the dragonfly die cut as well. And last going on is going to be Poppy Parade. Now that is quite an intense colour. Again, with a little bit of the glycerine, and I'm just bringing in a little bit of tissue there, just to stop me getting my mucky fingers and transferring the ink where I don't want it. And again, dragonfly's wings. So as you can see, there's this kind of ombre effect going on here. I'm going to leave this on one side to get good and dry, because I want it very, very dry before I move on to the next step. I'm going to do some stamping next. So I've got a piece of tissue paper and I'm lining it up in my Stamparatus very carefully, just making sure that the magnets are completely clear of the sheet music stamp, because that is a big old stamp. And I have actually tacked down the 4 corners of the tissue with a bit of removable tape runner. I just put those 4 corners. So I'm bringing in my Stays On ink. Now I find with the Stays On ink, it's better to kind of rub it onto the stamp, as well as doing a little bit of tapping, pressing that down. And the Stamparatus makes this so much easier, because with a stamp of this size I would find it very, very difficult to pick up a block. It is a big old stamp. You know, my hands are not big enough. So plenty of pressing and tapping. Now that area hasn't stamped as well as I would have liked, but that's not a problem. Oops, take the big barrier off the Stays On, it'll work better. And again, I'm concentrating the pressure in that the left hand side of that stamp there. Alright, so I'm much happier with that. So I'm going to take away the tissue, peel that away carefully, and I'm going to make sure that my grid paper is nice and firmly stuck down there with the magnets, because I'm going to do one more piece of stamping just to create a registration print that is going to help me when I come to the next step. I've lined up my background with the registration marks that I just stamped, and I cleaned off the stamp with Stays On cleaner. Didn't show you that. And now I'm stamping it up again with some Versamark ink. So giving it a jolly good coating of Versamark. And again, press that down nice and firmly. Now I'm particularly keen to get the dragonfly well stamped. So I'm just going to check that, and I think I could do with another coat. And of course the Stamparatus makes that easy. As you can see, I'm concentrating the pressure where that dragonfly is. Alright, so now I'm going to take that and give it a coat of embossing powder. Now this is my gold and silver mix embossing powder, which I created by accident. But I'm not going to throw it away, because it's quite attractive really. It gives a kind of soft gold effect. And now I've got my heatproof mat covering the Stamparatus. You can just see it underneath there. And I'm just heating up the dragonfly. So, whoops, come back dragonfly. Just to make sure that the gold is nice and shiny. There you go. And now the background, of course, I've already stamped with Versamark, but now I'm giving it a coat of grey granite. Again, yeah. Now, I want this to look kind of faded and antiqued. So I'm putting down my heatproof mat, and again I've got my embossing powder, and I'm just sprinkling that over the top, checking is that where I want it. A little bit more over there, I think. Whoops, getting myself in a bit of a knot there with the coffee filter. And now all I need to do is to heat that with my embossing tool, which is on high speed because I'm embossing. My phone is making all sorts of funny noises. And that's the job done. Here's the canvas. It's a cheap one that I bought at the craft store, and I prepared it by painting it with a coat of buff titanium acrylic. Just sponged it on, and now I'm giving it a coat of a gel medium. Now you could use Mod Podge, you could use whatever medium you like. You could even use PVA, although it would dry shiny. And now I'm just carefully lining up that tissue paper on top of the canvas, and just squeezing out any air bubbles with my sponge. Again, it's a kitchen sponge, and just giving it a coat of the gel medium, and I'm just going to leave that to dry. And here is the canvas. Now you will note that it's changed colour a little bit, and I decided it needed to be warmed up a bit. I didn't quite like the buff titanium, so all I did was take some dots of re-inker, and I think I used crushed curry to begin with, or that may be daffodil delight actually that I used, and just with a paper towel, you know, nothing fancy schmancy, just wipe the colour over the top, just like that. And now I'm putting in some Cajun Craze, and that is going to be a nice deep orange colour. It's kind of a little bit dark in the corners, but don't worry, we can live with that. We can cope with that. Give it a good rub, and last of all, Poppy Parade. I'm being very, very skimpy with the Poppy Parade because it is a very strong colour, and a little bit of it will go a long way. And now I'm going to just leave that on one side for it to dry. I've been playing with the canvas a bit more off camera, and as you can see, the tissue has kind of pulled away a bit from the bottom of the canvas, but that gives it a really nice scruffy effect, so I'm happy with that. And I've distressed my background card. I just kind of scraped at the edge of it with my fingernail, and I tore away the bottom and the top. Now I'm bringing in just a tiny dot of Mango Melody on my craft mat, and I'm just inking up those exposed surfaces. I just don't want to see any of the I've also been working on the dragonfly to fit in the aperture, and off camera I've cut 2 more copies of the dragonfly, one in Sahara Sand and the bottom one is in soft suede, and I've just stuck them together down the middle, down the body part, and I'm just going to give these a spot of Mango Melody as well, just to make everything blend together nicely. Die cut out the words amazing and you from some craft foam. This is the stuff that you get at the craft store. It's very inexpensive, but the words are a bit on the large side, so I've already shrunk and heat embossed the word amazing. So now I'm going to do the word you. So I've got a cork mat, and I'm just going to hold down the word you with my piercing tool, because once I turn the heat gun on, it'll fly all over the place otherwise. So here we go. Just again, holding that down. There, I've got an email. So now I'm heating that with my heat gun, and as you can see, the word is shrinking, because what is happening is the little air bubbles are all popping, and when they do that, the foam shrinks. So now I'm going to ink it up on my Versamark pad by pressing it down into the pad. I'm using the the lid of the ink pad to help me, and a quick coat of the mixed embossing powder, the gold and silver mix. Tidy that away, and I'm going to pin this down in place with a few dressmaker's pins. Okay, and again, just to stop it moving around and to stop it distorting. So just clearing those out of the way, warming up my heat gun, and here we go. On the polystyrene plate, I've put some shimmering embossing paste, and I'm adding some drops of Bermuda Bay and Coastal Cabana, mixing those in. And now I'm going to adhere my my background to the canvas, and I'm just trying to line it up so that the music all kind of follows on. And now again, another of my cheap kitchen sponges, and I'm just adding that texture paste where I want it. And I'm going to add some rusty colours as well, so I've got Cajun Craze and Mango Melody mixed in there, a little bit of Poppy Parade standing by, and now that is starting to look nice and rusty and grungy. And don't forget the dragonfly, and just have fun with it. And you can see it's just an old sponge that I've just pulled bits out of so that it's kind of pockmarked, and now I'm using my palette knife just to add a bit more texture, and I'm just playing with it until I'm happy with it. And now putting a little bit of my liquid adhesive into that cutout piece and arranging my dragonfly in the middle. I've been looking through my box of unfinished objects, and I found some leaves which I've die cut and heat embossed in the same way that I did the words Amazing You. Two of them are copper, one of them is this gold silver mix, and I've coloured a piece of the dotted tulle ribbon. I used a Stampin' Blend, light Bermuda Bay as it happens, and I just scribbled over the top of it until it was the colour I wanted. And I think that's going to look quite nice there. And I've got some of this. This is the copper trim, which looks to be very narrow, but if you spend a little bit of time, you can tease it apart and you get this lovely mesh. So I'm just kind of playing with it, and I think that's going to look very nice as well. So now I'm just going to decide where I want all of my elements. Do I want that at the top? I don't know. Down the bottom, I think. And I'm just playing with the placement of the elements, just trying to decide where I want things. And I think I want another piece of that ribbon, so I'll go away and colour that. I'm happy with my design, so I'm just sticking all of my pieces into place. So I'm using the back of my hand to apply liquid adhesive to things like the ribbon, and just playing around with where I want things and just sticking things down. So putting the leaves at the bottom of the panel, putting a bit of the spotty ribbon over the top of it, and then the copper mesh. And last of all, there's the word You, and that's it. So there it is, that's the finished canvas. I did just take some black paint on a sponge and just wipe it along the four sides of the canvas just to make those colours pop out a little bit more. And when I started this project, I thought I was going to make a card, and I thought it was going to be a completely different colour. And what happened was I had this idea in my head. I was inspired by something that I saw Tim Holtz show on his YouTube, and I thought, yeah, I want to make a card like that. And when I started pulling all the bits together, I thought, do you know what, this card is going to be so beautiful. I don't want it to be just a card. I want it to be a picture. So I went hunting for a picture frame, and I couldn't find one. But I found the canvas, and yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. And I'm actually quite surprised with where it turned out, but I'm really, really pleased with it, and I hope that you like it as well. And I hope you've enjoyed this somewhat different Tuppence Coloured tutorial, and if so, don't forget to click that like button. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of project, then please do let me know, because yeah, this is kind of my crafting roots. This is what I started liking to do. But that is it for today. Thank you very much once again for joining me, and I hope I'll see you again sometime soon. But for now, bye bye.